I think I speak for all of us. The sports world was stunned with the passing of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, and I think how many other people were in the?
There were 3 other people on the helicopter. I think there was
9 total.
There was
9 total.
Another basketball coach and his daughter was on there as well. It was a tragic day. And it was one of those news stories that it broke, and everyone's reaction was pretty much identical. When we saw it coming across Twitter, everyone was just saying, like, this has got to be a fake report. There's no way that this is true.
Yeah.
Because Kobe seemed like one of those guys that, because of how big his personality was, because of how prominent or how relevant he'd been in sports over the last 25 years, really. Like, he's always been around. He's always been the toughest guy in every single room, the most, mentally tough person, just really a legend in every sense of the word. And, like, thinking that he just all of a sudden is no longer with us was very, very tough to even believe.
Yeah, it was truly shocking, and it's hard with, like, how weird the world's gotten, how weird the internet's gotten, and, like, the news that you get every day. It's hard to be shocked, and this one, like, jolted everyone. And I tweeted right away, like, it really does. Kobe Bryant was the type of guy who you just expected in 50 years you'd see him sitting courtside trash talking like a 21-year-old and
probably being able to beat him in horse.
Yeah, and still being that guy, that presence, that guy who was so bigger than life, bigger than his sport, who was the guy who took the baton from Michael Jordan and passed it to LeBron James, who was basically the guy in the NBA for a decade plus, and 41 years old. And the fact that it's, he's with his daughter, who, like, if you ever saw clips of them together, and he had 4 daughters, and like how much he enjoyed coaching them, and the whole thing is just so horribly, horribly tragic. And it like took the wind out of you. It was one of those rare moments that really took the wind out of you. And it's hard to, like, make jokes and do our regular show. After news like that.
Right. There's not anything funny to talk about with it. It's just, like, it's horrific regardless. And Kobe had his detractors out there, but I think even people that didn't like Kobe Bryant, like, the gravity of the situation, he's with his daughter, you have to, like, nobody can think about this news and feel anything but just, like, feel grief and feel like, utter pain for his wife and his remaining daughters. It's an awful story. I can't think of another case where an athlete of, like, this stature has passed away suddenly. Like, maybe the closest thing I can even think of is Dale Earnhardt.
Well, yeah, people were saying Thurman Munson. The crazy thing about Kobe is, more than any other athlete, Kobe made people, like, feel. And that's people who hated him, people who loved him. He was a lightning rod, and he loved, what I loved about Kobe is he loved being that guy. He loved being that guy who would go and rip some team's heart out on the road. He loved being the guy who you might not like him, you might not root for him, but you respect his determination, his will to win, that, like, ultra competitive streak that you don't see in every athlete. You see it in very rare cases, and there's only a handful of guys who have that, like, win at all costs kind of mentality, and Kobe had it. And even if you weren't a Laker fan, you're like, hey, I'm not going to root for him, but at the end of the day, you respected what he did. And Coley, who's one of our colleagues, who has a great basketball podcast with Tyler, Mixtape, wrote it perfectly when he said he wasn't Michael Jordan, but he was Michael Jordan to a generation of fans, because he was that guy after MJ.
I think you can also see the way that Michael Jordan reacted to it. Kobe was the guy that reminded Michael Jordan the most of himself.
Correct. He had, like, those highlight tapes where they would show, basically, it was like a mirror image of the two of them.
Michael Jordan doesn't respect anyone that he competes against while he's competing against him, but he respected Kobe because he was like, I get the sense that this kid also doesn't like me when he's competing against me.
And whenever people, even Charles Barkley said, I think it was like 3 days ago, said that this NBA is too soft and guys are too friendly with each other. Kobe was the exact opposite. opposite. Kobe was not friends with anyone because if you're friends with someone, you're not getting better and you're not mentally getting something over someone when you're in the biggest moments and you're fighting for a championship.
Right. It's like us with Russillo when he comes on the show.
Yes.
We pretend to be friends with him. In reality, we're just negging the whole time so we get a mental advantage.
Okay, so
real quick, I want to touch on something because there are people that are experiencing obviously like emotional reactions to Kobe's death, and they've, a lot of people haven't met Kobe. They don't have a personal story with him, but they're still experiencing like a very real sense of loss. And that's like, it's such an unusual phenomenon to explain, but we all go through it. Like I remember when Sean Taylor passed away. I'd never met the guy. I'd just seen him play football, and there was something about watching him on the court or on the field the way that he played that like seriously affected me, because I admired somebody's ability to be that like 100% passionate about something, and it made me feel different about myself when I was watching him. I gotta imagine that's like how people feel about Kobe. It's like you watch a guy like that,
you feel like you know him,
who has this singular determination, and you respect his ability to focus so completely on one thing and excel at one thing, that he actually made like his fans feel better about themselves, and probably gave more drive and willpower to people that were just obsessed with watching him on TV, watching him play basketball. He improved people's lives who would watch him, and gave them like something to look up to, and kind of a role model in terms of what their mentality could be in whatever their chosen field is. And it's crazy that we'll never meet some of these people, but their passing still has a significant emotional effect on you.
So I did meet Kobe. I was lucky enough to meet Kobe. Hank was with me, and so we interviewed him with Alex Rodriguez for The Corp. We'll put some of the highlights of that at the end of this episode because it was a great interview. But Hank, you can back me up. I've never been more nervous for an interview, and being in the presence of Kobe Bryant was being in the presence of greatness. You could feel it. Like, we walked into his office. First of all, he was getting a haircut in his office, which was the ultimate power move.
Well, so you weren't even... I showed up like 3 hours early because the interview was at like 10 a.m. and I showed up with the camera crew at like 7 a.m. They're like, we'll open the office for you guys. You guys can get in. And so we're setting up the office. I thought no one else was in there. I asked like the assistant or whatever. I was like, where's the bathroom? And she pointed me to the bathroom. And I'm like walking. I looked to my right, and Kobe was just in his office at like 7:15. Like there.
This guy who's retired, has more money than you could ever spend.
Holy shit! And
he's like, in his office at 7.
And there was no one else. No one else in the entire office. It was just like a
That's
studio.
Pretty early for you, Hank. Did he hear you yawn?
Extremely early. And this was West Coast time, so it wasn't as bad.
But it was we showed up to his office. You could feel it. Like, when you're around someone like that who just commands respect, and like kind of this whole little orbit goes around him, it's something to behold. And we get there and we do the interview, and the interview, like, Kobe was nice, but he had that Kobe intensity that never lets you get comfortable. And it's like, this is the guy. This is why he is who he is. He will be nice to you, but like, you got to remember, you're on Kobe's turf and you're on Kobe's time. And the thing that struck me most about the interview, and again, we'll put some at the end, like, this is a guy who won 5 championships, is one of the best NBA players of all time, accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish, made millions upon millions of dollars. And like Hank said, he's at his office at 7 a.m. and he's somehow, some way, even more excited for the next chapter of his life and winning at whatever project he's about to do than he was for the 2 decades plus that he played in the NBA. And you're like, how is this possible? How can a guy who, like, for anyone who had what Kobe had, that's the peak of their existence. He's every single day is the next like challenge and the next thing he's about to tackle. And it was incredible to watch, because you're like, if you or I were, if we were sitting here and we're like, hey, we won 5 championships, we have $500 million. I wouldn't be waking up at 7 in the morning. I wouldn't be tacking the day. I wouldn't be like, I'm hungry for more. I'd be like, I'm going to sit in the jacuzzi and chill out for the rest of my life.
Yeah, some people don't have the off switch, because to them, hitting that off switch is like losing.
Right.
It's like giving up, and that's not what somebody who's wired like that ever wants to go through. Like, if Kobe Bryant were to have just sat down in bed and just stayed in bed all day and relaxed, he would have probably felt more unrelaxed, because he was laying, he would be anxious, that sort of thing. He was like one of the most driven people, obviously, in the history of sports.